You are like the highest ranking black woman over at Uber. And you drive from time to time still.
I do drive from time to time. I don't understand everything that we say that we're trying to launch if I'm not in the car driving. I don't understand the interactions that drivers have with riders and all of that empathy building. That's the building blocks of innovation. Yeah. I don't think I can call myself a tech leader if I'm not using the product. So yeah, I drive.
You said, I realized I was using a lot of energy pretending. That energy that could be used at work.
It's hard work to be successful. If I see energy as a finite resource, if I then also have to take energy to code switch, that is energy that I'm not using to perform well. The idea of like, I have to do all the things, why? And it starts with, I have to do all the things or else I'm not good enough. I am devaluing myself by saying that I need to be constantly laboring. I have to check every box and please every person. But getting over that hump of equating my quantity of activity with my worth, I started performing so much better.
Where do you think there's opportunity for innovation, especially when you have young people who want to get in the world of tech? They maybe even want to come and work for a company like Uber or Uber Eats. Where are you looking for people to have some new spark?
Oh man, so
welcome to Vault Empowers Talks, where we don't just scratch the surface. We dive deep into the lives of some of the world's most influential change makers. I'm your host, Brandi Harvey. But before I introduce my guest for today, I need you to go ahead and do me a favor. I need you to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss your daily dose of inspiration and motivation. But without further ado, I get to introduce this powerhouse of a woman who is seated across from me. Camiel Irving is the Vice President of North America Mobility Operations at Uber. She's led global career development for Black at Uber and volunteers for Management Leadership for Tomorrow, supporting MBA students of color. Previously at P&G Ventures, she founded Pepper and Wits, now Kendra, a self-care line of people experiencing perimenopause. Camiel is a Pipeline Angels member investing in women, femme-led companies. Camiel has been featured in Jet Magazine, Afro News Article, and Fast Company Innovation Festival, just to name a few. Camiel is curious, collaborative, and obsessed with big ideas. Vault Empowers Talks welcome executive, creator, innovator, and poet Camiel Irving to the show.
Wow. Nothing could have prepared me.
Nothing could compare. Listen, I love introducing people in that way because, one, you all take time to come and spend time with me. You're giving me an hour and a half, 2 hours of your time when you come over here. And I want you to know, I see you before you already get here, But you are the highest ranking black woman over at Uber.
I am. But I have the privilege of working at a pretty diverse company.
Yeah.
So I'm not the highest ranking black person.
Yeah.
Our chief legal officer, who at the time that we're recording this is on sabbatical, but is a black man.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of what has made my time at the company really special.
Yeah. Your time at the company, you have always really been in corporate. And really your time at the company, you kind of made your own space, in taking up space as a black woman, because we have to be real clear. Not many black women become executives of these very fast growing tech companies.
I think that's probably true factually, although I don't feel that. I think I have the privilege of being in a community with a lot of black women who are executives. And I think that privilege has come with our generation. So there are more and more people in these spaces, and being affiliated with groups like MLT, groups like National Black MBA Association. I feel like there are many, many, many black female executives who I aspire to be like, who I try and bring up with me. So, I think if someone were to pull the facts and evaluate the systems, they might see one thing. But one of my mantras is that life is moments. And so in the moments that I've had the privilege of seeing a lot of black women in these leadership spaces. And even before I saw them in real life, I saw them on television.
Yeah.
I tell people, I wanted to be Maxine Shaw.
Really?
I wanted to be Gina when she was doing the advertising with the big posters. But in my world, in my wonderland that I live in, it's completely normal for a black woman to be an executive.
Absolutely it is. Absolutely it is. You talk a lot about your authenticity and bringing your true self to the workplace. And that hasn't always been easy because you grew up where, the generation before us taught us how to, be professional in one way, make sure our hair was straight and make sure you lost your Baltimore accent. So, you weren't saying your R's a certain way, which I be doing over in Baltimore.
We tend to overpronounce our R's.
Yeah.
Room and our O's, our oohs. And I did over time shed my accent, not intentionally. It just sort of happened. I think it happened from a lot of code switching, a lot of falling into whatever space I was in and trying to fit into that space and be accepted. And, on the 20, this side of 20 years after leaving Baltimore, I miss it. I feel like I've lost a bit of my identity that's connected me to the place. Now, if you get me home for longer than a week,
it's over.
You start to come back.
It's over.
And I'm grateful for that.
But you know what? I love this, what you said. You said this, and it was in one of your articles. I think this was for Afro News that you did. I realized I was using a lot of energy pretending. Mm-hmm. That energy that could be used at work.
It's true. This has become something that really defines how I exist. I went from outperforming to outperforming. And so what that means is in a corporate environment, or really any environment, it's hard work to be successful. It requires thinking energy. It requires physical energy. It requires peopling and engaging. And all of those things are a tax on energy. So if I see energy as a finite resource, if I then also have to take energy to code switch, take energy to pretend to be something that I'm not, to be whiter, so to speak, to be interested in pop culture that I don't actually care about, to remember the score of the Mizzou football game, and I don't care about that. Yeah. That is energy that I'm not using to perform well. And so I, at some point in my career, figured out that I would be much more successful. I would deliver better, decks. I would have stronger ideas. I was more convincing when I just redirected that energy into my work. And it was so freeing. It was so liberating, because the craziest thing happened. Nobody cared, Brandi. Nobody punished me for wearing my natural hair. I didn't get dinged at work for using language the way that I understand how to use language. And in fact, I started getting rewarded for it, because the thing about Black girls is we learn how to use language in creative, interesting ways early in life. I'm not sure how it happened. But this is our commonality. And it made me more effective. The more I leaned into my identity, the more effective I was.
Okay, so because there are some women who are in corporate America right now who would love to climb the ladder and be in a position like you, and they're like, I don't even know how to do that. I don't know how to stop code switching. Yeah. What was that first step that you really had to take?
It started with hair, and it was almost out of necessity. So when I started business school, I had locks. I had spent a year in D.C., and it's a running joke. It's like, are you even from D.C. if you don't have locks?
I feel like that's about Atlanta right now.
I mean, it could be. It could be. And I was a year into my lock journey, and for a reason that we can talk about after this podcast over drinks, I had to cut my locks off. And so I went and I did a pixie. So when I started my first corporate job after business school, I had a pixie. I was wearing a perm. It was cute, but I was in business school in Chicago when I got my hair cut. Then I moved to Cincinnati. I couldn't find anybody to cut my hair and not have me looking like 1992. And so I had to make a choice. Like, this pixie wasn't working because it wasn't working. Yeah. So I started transitioning back to my natural hair, and it was scary because I was at the Procter and Gamble company.
Yeah.
This company is
headquartered
150
in Cincinnati.
years old, headquartered in Cincinnati. And I was, in a good job, but still very junior. I had people looking at me constantly. And the thing about P&G is they only promote from within. So the only way you can get in is to get in when you're young. And the only way to progress is to just have people like you. Oh, wow. And so it was either go back to natural hair, which, to be clear, I was natural back in 2006 before it was cool. But anyway, go back to natural hair, or have this terrible looking pixie. And I just couldn't bring myself to
Yeah.
look like 1992
Yeah.
in 2014. So I started transitioning back to natural. And at first, it was a lot of questions at work. A lot of like, oh my goodness, you did something different. Because in my transition, I was doing crochet
Yeah.
and other protective styles and
Listen.
natural. And Ohio is not Atlanta. People don't understand.
I'm
And
from
so-
Ohio, Camiel.
Are
So yeah,
you?
I'm from Cleveland.
Are you?
Yeah.
So you get it.
I do get it. You got to find your person.
Mhm.
Yeah, you got to find your person.
It was tough.
So people are asking you all these questions at work. They're like, "Oh, you're doing something new.
Yeah.
Your hair was longer, right?"
Right.
So you're getting all of that.
It's true.
But that was really the push
That's
you
the thing that
needed.
opened the door. And it
Yeah.
taught me, I think, an important lesson for how I treat these situations now. And that is, I just lean into it. You have a question about my hair, I'm just going to answer it. And I think the tough thing for many of us is somebody gets that question and all we hear is, you don't understand me. I don't belong here. You don't like me. And all of a sudden we're subordinating ourselves or just feeling aggressive energy because it's like, why don't you understand me?
Yeah.
But listen, you don't understand. Let me just explain it. But I'm not going to explain it in a way that feels like I'm subordinating myself. I'm going to explain it matter-of-factly because it's just a fact. I'm transitioning my hair. What that means is I had a relaxer. Now I'm wearing it natural. And this is crochet. It's extensions that are weaved into my hair to create this beautiful style that I just showed up with. And now going forward in my career, any topic it is, if I am talking about the thing that's authentic to myself, authentic to my culture, I'm going to talk about it in a way that's matter of fact. Or even like, oh, you didn't know?
Yeah.
Rather than sort of cowering and be like, oh, well, Black people have this thing that we do. No, actually. And in the context that I was working in marketing, it was incredibly important for everyone to actually have an education in Black culture because we understand how influential Black American consumers are over the mass market.
Yeah.
And so again, me leaning into my authenticity through something as simple as hair helped me to be a subject matter expert on this very critical consumer group and elevate the cultural competency of my entire team.
I mean, it really served you well, through the pandemic because you guys were able over at Uber to grow the business when many businesses were failing. So you've really used that knowledge that you have as a Black woman, as a girl from Baltimore, and how it has really been able to help, you transform in the corporate world.
Certainly. I tell people I've been broke before. And what that means is I have, and now I'm not.
Amen. She got that good check coming in at Uber. Listen.
And so now I have a perspective from the consumer lens of every sort of flavor of riders that we may come across. But also, I was an Uber driver once. I drove part-time before, after grad school, before I started working to make extra money. And I have many people in my family, like close cousins, uncles, who are drivers and couriers. And that seems like something that's very simple. That like I have personal relations with drivers, but there's lots of people, many decision makers in my company who don't have those relationships. And so the fact that I can get a very quick insight via text message from my cousin, hey, we launched this feature. Have you seen it show up in your app yet? What do you think about it? It puts me in an advantage. Like I have the information.
Yeah.
And it also advantages my whole company. Like we're able to be more successful because there's someone like me at the table who has this perspective that not everybody has.
Yeah. And you drive from time to time still.
I do drive from time to time. Yes.
Now, I need you to tell me, because I want to know if I'm getting in the car and I see Camiel then popped up as the Uber, hey, girl, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're doing this for like market research, or this is just something that you want to still be able to feel hands-on in the company in that way?
Totally. So I drive, and many of our executives drive because you cannot understand. So we all ride, right? Like I'm a passenger princess for life. So everyone who works at Uber is really familiar with the Rider app. But not that many people are familiar with the driver app. And the driver app is so much more critical because each individual driver engages with that app so much more deeply than a rider would. Like if you're taking an Uber, however often you take it, you're in that app for 30 seconds while
Yeah.
you order it, and 30 seconds again when you tip the driver. But the driver is in the app all day long. So I don't understand everything that we say that we're trying to launch if I'm not in the car driving. I don't understand the interactions that drivers have with riders, how difficult it can be sometimes to pull over on the highway, how difficult it can be to navigate a neighborhood you've never been to. And all of that empathy building, that's the building blocks of innovation. Like, I don't think I can call myself a tech leader if I'm not using the product. So yeah, I drive. Yeah.
Now, what's been your worst Uber experience? Have you had one?
So as a driver, the hardest thing I ever did, I was in DC and I was picking up an older couple. Like
DC, you said
couple.
enough.
Exactly.
I already, the
Right.
streets in
People
DC.
don't like driving in DC.
Exactly, yeah.
The street lights are on the side. I'm used to driving in DC. That's my home. But I was trying to pick up this older couple. They were tourists, so they didn't know where they were. I didn't know where they were.
Yeah.
The husband kept walking away from the wife. And it was just a very chaotic situation of just trying to find them.
Because the location of pickup is moving. Yeah.
And they were in a circle. So going back to DC, DC has all of those roundabouts.
Roundabouts, yeah.
And so I thought they were on this side of the roundabout. They were on this side of the roundabout. I'm asking for cross streets. They're like, what's a cross street? I don't know where this couple was from, but they were having trouble with DC. And I remember in that moment feeling so frustrated.
Yeah.
But then thinking to myself, I really want to come through for these folks. And so I just took a deep breath and I continued to drive around, and I did eventually find them, and I got them to where they needed to go.
Okay, so I think we need to give our audience a deeper look into what the driver's experience is, because sometimes, right, we get these, we're in a rush and we need our ride. We want our ride when we want it. And why you not? And sir, I said I was on this side. What is that way that our audience can begin to show a little more empathy to the drivers?
Yeah, it's a good question. So the first thing I would say is drivers are doing their best. And that pickup moment is a critical moment and a difficult moment. So the first thing is drivers have to abide by the laws of the road. Right. And sometimes the driver abiding by the law may mean that your pickup is not in the most convenient place for you.
Yeah.
My previous apartment in DC was on a bus lane. A trolley lane.
Okay.
Right? The driver, if I just wanted to walk out my house so conveniently and walk right into the car, if I wasn't standing out there when the driver arrived, there was no way for them to park because there's a trolley line coming.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so there was more than one time where I'm late as a rider, and the driver ends up having to go around the block or park across the street. Because if he stands there, not only could he get a ticket, the trolley might literally hit him. You know what I'm saying? So the first thing I would say is they have to abide by the law. The second is drivers are trying to keep themselves safe. We stand for safety on our platform. We have had the privilege of putting dozens and dozens of safety features in the app. But the truth is, if your drivers are constantly trying to make sure that they are able to have the safest interactions possible, especially from a road safety standpoint. So they may not want to make a U-turn.
Yeah.
They may not want to make an unprotected left turn. And so sometimes that extra right turn that seems to go off path is just to make sure that they can arrive safely and you can arrive safely. So if there was nothing else that you can remember as a rider, it's that drivers are trying to follow the law and drivers are trying to be safe.
Yeah. They really don't want to get into an accident.
They
They really don't.
They don't.
They don't.
Because then they trying to make money.
Yeah.
If they get in an accident, they can't make money for the rest of the day.
Listen, they can't make money, but their goal is to make money. And we've seen in the news recently because Uber has upped the minimum wage in certain states.
Driving for Uber is lucrative. I'll start by saying that. So in general, drivers
They about to be flooding the deal. They about to be ready to sign up for Uber now.
Yes, and earnings do vary from city to city. They vary from week to week, hour to hour. You mentioned we have agreements that we have done in a few states. For example, in California, we have Proposition 22, which solidifies independent contractor status, and it established a minimum earning standard for those drivers. So every 2 weeks, there is a minimum time and distance rate that we honor for drivers. Often, drivers are actually exceeding that, but it sets a floor for them. And we've been really proud to be able to reach these agreements with a few states.
That is awesome, because I think people don't really, there are some people who really look to Uber as a viable option to earn money.
Certainly.
And some people haven't even considered it, like, oh no, I don't want strangers in my car. But you're like, it could really set you on a different trajectory.
That's right. It's one of the things that I find most interesting and makes me most passionate about this work that I do. Every day, 7 million people globally get to make money on my platform. And that varies from people who do this full time as their full-time work. They're on the road 40 hours a week. They make schedules for themselves and they go out. But it's also people who are just making a little bit of extra money, right? One of my younger cousins, as an example, does Uber Eats deliveries, and he's like, oh, I got a few extra hours on a Saturday. Let me hit a lick real quick, and I'll go do a few deliveries, and then everything in between. And in our mission statement, the word opportunity is there. And, I try not to be like a super, corporate-y person, but I really believe in Uber's mission. Like, we talk about igniting movement in the world and igniting opportunity, and that's what happens. Like, I always want to work in a place where the work that I do opens up doors for other people.
I mean, absolutely. I think that you are giving our audience a new perspective of how they even look of when they click on that app. Of really the amount of people that are connected to the app, the amount of people who are making money on the app, which is wild to me. When I heard that in your interview, I was like, 7 million people on the app worldwide making money.
That's right.
I'm not on there, child. I would be.
And by the way, that's just drivers and couriers.
Yeah.
I haven't even mentioned merchants, because restaurants are also able to make more money because of the platform.
Okay, because the merchants, when they get on the platform, is really for Uber Eats.
Yes.
For them to
That's
have
right. It
that.
becomes a marketing channel for them. And a sales channel for them.
So how is that a marketing or a sales channel for the restaurant? Because you come up on as like suggested restaurants?
That's right. Or even just being in the app. So, prior to delivery, if a restaurant wanted a customer, that customer had to walk by or that customer had to drive up looking for that app. What the food delivery industry has done is it creates a new channel for them to sell their food or sell their products. You can actually get anything on the Uber app now, from grocery stores to hardware stores.
Yeah.
Like, you can buy things from
pharmacy.
Lowe's to pharmacy. Exactly.
Alcohol.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, there was a big conversation during the pandemic about retail and like brick and mortar retail, and it's really hard to maintain stores. But the beautiful thing is people always need things.
Yeah.
And so we are grateful to play a role in the whole retail ecosystem. Like, if you have something to sell, if you're a restaurateur, you don't have to be in a crisis moment because there's no traffic coming into your store. The app just allows that storefront to come to people's little phone every day.
I mean, it totally does, because even when I'm in other cities, and I'm sitting in a hotel and it's like, I don't really feel like going out to eat. You know what? Let me see what's on Uber Eats and see what I can find. And I've done it. Now, I have not seen these locations, so I am really rolling the dice, okay?
Fair. But, there's reviews. The reviews can be helpful.
The reviews are definitely helpful. The reviews are helpful. So when the pandemic happened and this shift that happened across the platform, how much spike in business and how much were you able to grow over at Uber during the pandemic?
Oh, such a good question. So my business, the mobility business, tank.
Really?
Because
because of the safety, and people can't move.
To go anywhere. So a lot of people are using Uber to go to work. People aren't going to work anymore.
Very true.
People use Uber to go out to eat. Restaurants are closed. People are using Uber. Like, many of the places where people would take rides, they weren't taking rides anymore. So we dropped to a very small portion of our volume. But then delivery just started going up. And that was one of the nice things about being a differentiated business. So you asked like exactly how much. I don't know the specific numbers, but you can find them. They're like publicly published, but the delivery business just took off. And that was us and all of the other participants in the delivery category.
Wow.
Yeah. Everybody ordering food.
Where do you think there's opportunity for innovation, especially when you have young people who are coming to you all the time who want to get in the world of tech? They maybe even want to come and work for a company like Uber or Uber Eats.
Yeah.
Where is the space for innovation? Where are you guys looking for people to have some new spark?
Oh, man. So my biggest objective right now is making this platform more interesting to more groups of people. So the best example I can give you is we just launched the Uber Teens product. And
Uber Teens.
Uber Teens.
Okay.
So teenagers 13 to 18 can use the platform in a safe way. Their account is connected to their Guardian account, and we have a whole suite of safety features that are optional on the adult app, but they're permanent and required on the teen app. And for me as a business owner, that's another several 100 million people that now get to use the app. But when I think about it as a person on a mission, I'm now giving parents time back. I'm giving teens independence. I'm giving everyone a safe way to move around, a new safe option to be able to move around. And that's the kind of innovation that I love, because we're really solving a problem. Like, one of parents' biggest challenges from day to day is how they're going to get their kids to the next place. And so for the teenagers, at least, this gives them another option.
Okay, so the teen, has it already launched for some users?
It's fully launched in the US.
Cool. So teenagers now have their own teen, and it's a separate app outside of the Uber app.
That's right. So they have to be invited by a guardian. So a guardian sends the invitation, they download the app, they can ride and go. The guardian sees every trip that they're taking. They see when they're on trip. They can call the driver if they need. They can call the police if they ever need
wow. Oh, that's a really great feature. I didn't even realize that was here.
Yeah.
And so that came under your leadership.
It did.
Is there something that you feel is missing?
Yeah. I mean, Uber's going to be around for a while.
Absolutely.
And so the sky is the limit in terms of problems in mobility that we can solve.
Off kind of the world of Uber, because there's a whole world that you live outside of Uber. You got you the auntie.
I am.
You the auntie. You the TT.
I am.
How is it finding balance as a woman in corporate who has this high-powered, high-demanding job and career? How is it finding balance for you? Is there balance?
There's balance because I do it, Like, I live life hard, and I work with an incredible wellness coach, and we've developed this mantra: live hard, live well. And so for me, live hard means I'm on planes all the time. Like this period of time, fall, I think in October, November, I'm traveling every single week. And I used to think, man, travel is so hard on my mental health, is so hard on my physical health. The only way I'll be well is to not travel. But I don't want to not travel.
Yeah.
So I've had to figure out, how do I be well and travel? So what that means is I make choices to maintain my wellness. I am tyrannical about sleep.
Yeah.
I am tyrannical about my workouts because they bring me energy.
Yeah.
So I'm 3 days a week. It doesn't matter where I am. I could be in Timbuktu. I'm going to do a body weight workout at least 3 days a week when I can't be at home in my gym. And the thing that I've had to actually cut back on, you talk about balance and trade-offs, is alcohol.
Ooh, girl.
I do still drink. I have drinks, but I've had to really cut back and moderate it.
Oof.
Because at the end of the day, it was disrupting sleep. And sleep is really what it all came back to.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It is. It's so disruptive.
It is.
I literally was like, when I turned 42 this last birthday, I was like, I'm breaking up with alcohol.
Yeah.
Because it is so hard on my body. Mm-hmm. Like the recovery of it, it's like, I'm a 2-drink shorty. Mm-hmm. Like now, before I used to be like Turn up, turn up, turn up.
Same, Brandi.
2 drinks, baby. It's gonna be a long morning. It's gonna be a hard one. Okay,
It's true.
I do 3. It's a hard morning
For sure.
Yeah.
And so now I'm like, if I'm gonna have a cocktail, let it be a good one.
It's got to be so
Right?
good and worth it.
Worth it.
I had one in St. Martin this week. I was like, "What is this? This is just bad."
Right.
Listen,
And I won't give it back, you know? Like, I will give it back. I used to be a person that's like, oh, I got a bad drink. Okay, I mean, I might as well.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I can't drink this, sir, ma'am.
Yeah.
I would like, please just give me a glass of wine. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I just make it worth it. So that's one thing that I've sort of sacrificed. Another thing is I am very specific about where I travel for work. When I first got into this role, everybody asked me to do everything. And I just assumed that I needed to do it, right? Like, oh, I'm the head of the North America Rides business. I have to be at all these places. And I quickly figured out that people don't care about my time at all. People meaning like, you know, the folks within my company who would book these things for me. And so me and my chief of staff and my assistant, we have principles about what type of speaking engagements I'm going to do, what types of meetings I'm going to go to, where I can send a delegate, and just having that level of intentionality means that I am spending every minute with the best and highest use of time.
Yeah.
I stole that phrase, by the way, from Fawn Weaver, who is one of my, she's my mentor in my head. We've met a couple times, but she don't know
She's
me.
so good.
But like in my head, she is. And I've heard her say before, like, she don't need to mentor me because she told me to read books. Anyway, she uses this phrase, best and highest use of time. And I've adopted that to ensure that like what balance means is every single moment, best and highest use of time. And sometimes that best and highest use of time is digging in with a business partner, digging in with a cross-functional partner at Uber. Sometimes the best and highest use of time is getting my godsons up for school, which is what I did this morning. And it was a beautiful experience that I'm grateful I don't have to do every day.
Yeah, right? Okay, it's like my nephew. I'll be like, whoo, he'd be like, BB. I'm like, go, it's time to go home now. Time to go home, friend. I love that, the best and highest use of time. Because I think we find ourselves burnt out so much.
That's right.
We find ourselves overwhelmed, full of anxiety, wondering why we're running around panicked. Yeah. You know, because we're not using our time wisely to benefit us and serve us. And that's so good, because I feel like that's something I've had to learn as you get older. That's you know, you get to these big ages and you're like, girl, no is my final answer.
No is my final answer.
And it's a complete sentence.
Oh, that's another part of the wellness, setting boundaries. And not feeling guilty about saying no. One thing that I've learned is guilt is a useless emotion. And I've done deep study into emotions because I think they're a really important part of being successful as a leader and an innovator and a creative.
For sure.
Like creative people are pretty emotional. And as I dig into, like, all of your emotions are there to send signals about how you need to move and how you need to react to a situation. And I have found that guilt actually has very little utility.
Ooh. That's really good.
So now I say no, guilt-free.
Yeah.
Especially because if this person loves me, they actually want me to be well.
Yeah.
And they want me to be well more than whatever whatever outing they wanted me to go to.
Yeah.
And if now that I'm grounded in that, there's nothing to feel guilty about.
Yeah. Now that you're grounded in that. Is there a ritual that you practice every day? I know you work out 3 days a week and you have a wellness coach that you spoke of. But is there a daily practice that helps you keep your head above water?
I'm developing one. I will be transparent that I've struggled to be consistent on a true daily practice, but there are a few habits that I have that I incorporate throughout my day. One of them is box breathing. So box breathing
I've heard of this. Yes.
So there's two breath work. So one is box breathing. That's 4, breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts. Hold for 4 counts. Oh, this is not in my bio. I was trained a yoga teacher. So this is where I learned some of this stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I'm a trained Vinyasa 200 yoga teacher, and I learned about breathing. So box breathing is one, and that is a really good practice to just reset my nervous system and also support emotional processing. I meet with people all day long. Like, I people all day. Yeah. And sometimes those conversations are negotiations, which negotiating is very emotionally taxing. Yeah. Sometimes I'm coaching someone. Sometimes I'm straight up just letting people vent to me. Sometimes I'm in a meeting and somebody is gaslighting me. So I'm on an emotional roller coaster. So box breathing helps me move those emotions through so that I'm not carrying stuff with me from 8 a.m.
Yeah.
and it's already 4. The other breathing practice is what's it called? 4-7-8. 4-7-8
Okay.
breathing is inhale for 4, hold for 7, exhale for 8. And that longer exhale really helps to bring my nervous system down. Like if I am heavily anxious, if I'm on the verge of a panic attack, which is something I've experienced before,
Oh, wow.
if I just have a lot of anxious energy, that 4-7-8 breathing, exhaling tells your body everything is okay.
Yeah.
And so that's what the 4-7-8 is for.
I love that. I think that's the part of learning how powerful the breath is. That was a game changer for me in my wellness journey because it was like, just breathe. Just take a minute, Brandi. Just go breathe. Because if I feel panicked in any way, like overwhelmed, like I feel rushed, like I'm going to shut down.
Yeah.
Like I will instantly, you want me to shut down? Brandi is like overwhelmed. She's feeling like every bell and whistle's going off in her head right now. So she got to go take a minute. But I've learned, so much of my self-care is just like, I am so intentional about going to take my time. Like no matter where I am, it's like, not right now. Hold on. I need a minute. And I go and exit and remove myself so I can recenter.
I agree. Listen, I'm not a surgeon, so minutes, I got a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I got a minute. And I think that that's the thing that so often, even when, especially Black women, we get in these positions, right? You're in this very high power position. And like you said before, you feel like you have to do all the things. You feel like you have to travel to all the places. You got to make all the meetings. But those moments we can just say, wait a minute, let me woosah. It becomes a game changer in how we're able to show up, not just in our workplace, but in our personal life.
It's very true. And the idea of like, I have to do all the things, there's an implied statement after that. I have to do all the things. Why? And it starts with, I have to do all the things or else I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And once I realized that was happening in my subconscious, it's like, I am totally devaluing myself. I am devaluing myself by saying that I need to be constantly laboring. I have to check every box and please every person or else I'm not good enough.
Oh my God, that's good.
Man, Brandi, once I got rid of that and I realized I took inventory of the value that I was bringing to all of my relationships, the value I was bringing to my company, the value I could bring, and also the fact that I could bring even more value if I was spending each moment with the best and highest use of time.
Yeah.
All of that really fell away.
Yeah.
And it was so liberating, and it continues to be liberating. And I think, I still feel anxious from time to time, so I'm sure I have a lot to learn. But getting over that hump of equating my quantity of activity with my worth was game changing. I started performing so much better.
Oh my God. That happened for me at 35. That was the shift that happened at 35 for me. Because before that, there was really one time, and I don't think I've ever told this story, definitely not on camera, but we were doing a mentoring camp one year. I think this was like the year I was probably like 32, 33 years old. And when I say overexerting myself so much so I had an asthma attack, right? And I hadn't had an asthma attack since I was like 17. So at this point, it's almost 17 years later, me having this asthma attack. And I wasn't going to go to the hospital, right? Wasn't going to go. I get in the hotel room and my mom calls. And I'm like, just not breathing well. I think I just need to lay down. My mom says, you need to go to the hospital. I'm like, Mom, I don't need to go to the hospital. I just need to lay down. And she calls my staff at the time. They come to my hotel room to take me to the hospital. I get to the hospital. Girl, the doctor, they gave me 2 breathing treatments. She said, if you had gone to sleep, you probably would have died. Wow. And all up until that point, you feel like they're going to see me working. They're going to see me.
Right.
They're going to see me grinding. Right. I'm the last man standing. Look at me, the strongest bee, the worker bee. Girl, and you about to kill yourself.
You just said something. They're going to see me grinding.
They're going to see it.
Where did we learn that?
Girl,
I don't
post-traumatic
know.
slave syndrome.
Correct.
Listen.
Correct.
The whip.
Correct.
Listen, all the things that are in our DNA.
Exactly. And we have to shift from they're going to see me grinding to they're going to see the fruit of my grind.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Because that's really what people care about is results.
Yeah.
Because if you get into a space where people are rewarding activity, that's not innovation. Like, you're not value creating if you're just deliver something.
Yeah.
Deliver something good, meaningful.
Yeah.
And then, take a break so you don't die.
Listen, so that lady said, what have you been doing? She was like, were you partying? I was like, no, girl, I've been out here doing the Lord's work. And she said, well, you were about to die. She said, if you would have gone to sleep, you probably would have died in your sleep. And I think that for the women who are listening, you can still win and rest.
You must. Rest is a critical input to winning.
Yeah, it is.
Especially if you want to sustain your winning.
Yeah, to win. What's new? What do you have on the horizon? Because you're a creator. As much as you're a tech innovator and you're an executive, you are a creator because, you used to be a poet. And, when I was doing my research, she was down there leading the poetry slams, honey. It was the poetry jam, honey. She was snapping it up in the coffee shops. Listen.
Oh, man, let me tell you, Brandi, she goes past the first page on Google. So in my 20s, I was a prolific spoken word artist. It was my passion. It was my hobby.
Yeah.
And it was the way that I built community. I was living in the Midwest at the time in Kansas City, and I loved speaking. And I had a lot of feelings and thoughts, and putting them on paper and speaking them out loud became a release to me. And I also have always been a bit more creative than my day job. And so having some sort of creative outlet was really critical. It's funny that this came up because I was actually just talking to a couple of friends about my poetry and how I hadn't written in a while and how I had been feeling inspired because I was doing writing. So first, what I'll say is, for the creative people out there who feel like they're creative at night and something not creative during the day, integrate.
Yeah.
Integrate. Find a way to tap into that creative part of your brain while you are at work. I don't care how boring you think your job is. If you are a creative person, you actually are able to solve problems in ways that other people cannot.
Yeah.
So I'll start by saying that in my day job, in my general manager role, where I'm looking at spreadsheets and numbers and money and math, I'm still creative problem solving every single day and finding ways to use my creativity to add value to my business.
Yeah.
I'm getting back into speaking, which is fun. Because I've amassed a few stories and
I bet.
I've amassed a few stories, and I have not wanted to tell my story or to talk about myself, just because I felt like, I don't want to be a arrogant person or whatever. But I keep showing up at conferences and having people look what feels like directly at me saying, you need to tell your story.
Yeah.
And I'll share this. I lost my line sister a few years ago, and she's been showing up in my dreams telling me to tell stories. So I say that to say what's next for me is more storytelling in a few spaces.
I love that. Because, if we don't tell it, they'll write us off and say we didn't exist.
You never lied. Or take credit for the things.
Or say it was me.
Yeah.
It was me.
It's true.
I founded America.
Correct.
It was me. It was me. I stumbled upon this land. I know you did. I bet you did. Mm-hmm. Yeah. If we don't tell our stories, they'll say we didn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah. They'll write us out of history. And I think that's the beauty of why I bring people, very accomplished people like yourself, onto this platform, Because one, it's not a story that we hear in the mainstream all the time, right? Because of celebrity. We're kind of driven by celebrity in this culture. But there are so many more stories that we can learn from, that we can glean from.
Oh, certainly. And I hope so. And, I do hope that, like, I'm hesitant to try and cultivate fame, if I'm being honest. But I do hope that the right people hear the right things that I have for them.
Yeah. The fame thing is different. Yeah, that's very different. Yeah, very, very different. Ooh, child.
Yeah. It can be violent, I think, for Black women.
Oh, goodness. It can be, And I think that, because of the perception that so many people have of Black women, not just in the States, but when you travel abroad, right? It can go any kind of way, depending on where you are. And our safety is always up for question in certain spaces. As we begin to close out this interview, one word you're committed to in this season of your life.
Unleashed.
Ooh, I felt some fire on that one, honey. That was, I wanted to,
I was on Saturday at the Creator Summit in Washington, D.C., which was put on by Color Vision. There's this amazing woman, Mia Davis.
I love Mia.
Yeah,
we know Mia. Yeah, yes. I'm one of Mia's Do Good Award winners.
Oh my goodness!
2 years ago.
She is a powerhouse, and she knows how to convene a beautiful group of Black women.
Yes, everybody be so dressed. I mean, just beautiful. It's the most beautiful room.
It's a beautiful room, and it's a beautiful, like spiritually beautiful space.
Yeah.
And so I was on a panel, and the last question was, "What's one word?" And it kept unleashed. I believe that Black women, Black girls, are intentionally quelled. Made to feel small, made to look small. And I believe that we're in an era powered by social media, powered by the access that we now have and that we can give to each other, where we can be our full, magical, big selves. Yeah. And so I'm trying to model that for people. So I'm unleashed. I'm saying the things. I'm taking up the space.
Yeah.
I literally am taking up space. I just bought a beautiful home with my partner in DC, and I want to use that space to create a lot of goodness and value in the world. I am not holding back any gift that's been given to me. So I'm unleashed.
Oh, come on, unleashed. I love that. Yes, unleashed. That's the first time somebody's used that word on the show. So I love that word. But I said, Camiel, I said last year, going into this 2024, I said that I was not going to leave any one of my talents buried.
Yeah.
That every gift that God has given me, baby, I'm going to use it. And so when people see me, well, I saw you at a church preaching. You sure did, because God needed me to preach that day. Okay. Oh, well, God needed me to speak that day. God needed me to show up as the ratchet auntie on that day. Okay.
Period.
The turn up cousin on the other day. Okay. Listen,
right.
All the ways that we have to show up. So Camiel, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure.
You are awesome. I can't wait to see what stories you tell in this season of your life that you're unleashed. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you, Brandi. This has been incredible.
Vault Empowers Talks, another good one for the books. I hope you're unleashed in your life, that you go start telling some stories that make an impact and change the lives of not only yourself, but those around you. I'm your host, Brandi Harvey. Until next time, eat well, give a damn, move your body every single day. Peace.